Welcome to the Smash Masters podcast, hosted by Stefan Eschi and Nick Priest. This is where we dig into the auto body collision repair field and talk quality repair methods and how the industry is always changing. Buckle up, it gonna get bumpy.
Hey,
welcome in. What are we on? Episode 31?
31.
31.
Broken into the 30s.
All right, Alex is first. Good evening, Alex. How are you? How are you doing?
Good to see you. It was good to see you over at SEMA. Yep. Hey, David. David's coming in. Hey, man, I'll tell you, this week back at work was tough.
Was it?
Well, I mean, we're coming back from SEMA and everything, and I actually had it felt like a really long, extended weekend, and so, I mean, getting back to the grind and going to a full work week was kind of like, bleh.
Yeah.
But, you know, powered through, got a lot done this week, so I think we made a good advancement towards our team flat rate bonus this month. So
yeah,
it's always good. Got to make up for lost time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. It is what it is on that. I mean, there's always going to be something to do inside a body shop, is there not?
Usually.
You don't never want to be fully caught up, but you know, you want to keep some stuff trickling in, you know. But
yeah,
it's tough to get back into the rhythm, though, especially from being outside that and all the walking that we done and plane rides and everything that we were looking at, seeing, doing. It was just...
We got to play with glue the whole time, too, you know, and I get back here and this metal's folded up in ways that glue's just not going to do, you know. So
yeah.
it was get dirty.
Yeah,
and
there's a difference between stepping on a body line and pulling it back out, and then you get out here to this stuff, and you're like, oh gosh, you know.
Well, I was fixing bullet holes this week, so there's no gluing. I mean,
you can glue a bullet hole.
Down, puppy.
You can glue a bullet hole.
Hey. Well, I glued it with a MIG welder. How about that?
Hey, that's liquid metal. Hot glue gun for metal,
liquid
right?
Magma. Don't mind getting caught up near the end of the day. It helps me hit the ground running in the morning. Yeah, see, I like to get into work early in the morning, David, and usually, you know, a distributor's not there, or if they are there, they're not ready to hand out work. So I like to make sure there's something for me to do in the morning. Sometimes I'll set something up in my bay the night before if, you know, it's the end of the day when I'm done with something. But I really have no problems just walking away from a job because I know I can come in early in the morning and crack at it again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, David, that's what I call a MIG welder, hot glue gun for metal.
It really is. That's how I've always described MIG welding. Mm-hmm. You know, they came out with silicone bronze, which is even more of a hot glue gun for metal. But,
right.
But yeah, MIG welding generally, that's one powerful hot glue gun, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make a big hole.
What is up, Denton Vision Tools? Nick, how you doing?
Hey,
man,
Nick.
I hate that happened to you over the weekend.
I saw that
post, dude.
Somebody, so for everyone who doesn't know, somebody broke into Nick's shop last night or over the weekend or wherever. So, but he did write that they didn't take many PDR tools because no one knows what they are. No one knows what they cost. So it's
nobody knows what a pile of dumb-looking bendy sticks are. Nobody wants that crap.
I had somebody ask me about locking up their PDR tools in a body shop, and I'm just like, listen, guy, they don't know how to use that stuff, so you're pretty good just leaving them out. Like, nobody knows how to use them.
Right.
So, don't worry about it. I mean, don't sue me if I'm wrong, but you're probably okay.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
Yeah,
be all right. All right. So, well, we got a pretty cool episode coming in today. A lot of informative stuff that we've had plenty of questions about. You know, these last couple months or so, people have been asking, what do we do about this, that, or the other? So
Jesus Christ. Freaking animals are just attacking me. That was the cat this time.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
we have we've got hopefully we can get a lot of these questions answered that you guys are asking about. So, you want to go ahead and bring him on in here?
Yeah. Let's bring Frank out here.
Before your whole situation.
Before my computer just falls on the ground. Jesus Christ.
What's up, Frank?
Hey, guys! Stefan, are you at AT&T Stadium tonight? The roof's falling in over there too.
Oh, that's what it feels like. And I got the dog going nuts over here. The cat apparently knocking stuff down over here. So this would be interesting.
Right.
I got a little zoo in my house. So
Really does.
it's fine though. So Frank comes to us from ADAS Solutions USA.
Guys, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about what ADAS Solutions USA is about?
Yeah, you bet. So we're about a 3-year-old company. Jerry Cathcart's our founder. He kind of got into the ADAS space, honestly, when he tells his story in 2012. So any of us have been doing this for a minute, think back to 12 and think, there really wasn't a lot going on then, but there was some stuff that just got started. And so that's when he started his research and right in the start of the pandemic, he decided to go full bore into calibration and started ADAS Solutions USA with the first static calibration location in Loveland, Colorado, and kind of built out from Colorado. And I reside in Texas, have a location here. We've got locations in Tennessee as well as in St. Louis, Missouri. And so
nice.
We have static centers that take cars. Kind of what our specialty is, I guess, and our claim to fame is we offer concierge. So our technicians start at our clients' shops every morning, kind of assess the work that's in the building and what's going to get delivered and help them schedule the calibration ADAS technology repairs that are needed. And we take the car back to our location, calibrate it, and then bring it back to them. So that's
all right.
Who we are in a nutshell. So,
full service calibration centers.
Yeah, you got it.
Well, that's great.
That's pretty awesome.
It's I hear constantly about, and I see people or companies offering calibrations in areas, and I've only got a little bit of training, but I know they should be in a flatter area or a more open area or something along those lines. So I love hearing about calibration centers that are set up correctly with the right amount of work, room, and everything. So for those that don't know, ADAS is Advanced Driver Assistance Systems. It could be anything from like a lane departure warning to full-on self-driving. But we don't really have that self-driving yet. I mean, so there are different levels to ADAS systems. Like they have up to 5 now, right?
Yeah. Yep. Level 5 is full self-driving with nobody behind the wheel. The car makes all the decisions, and there isn't anybody there to blame other than the other car that the self-driving car hits most of the time. So,
right.
That's a level 5 autonomy. Most what we see today with most manufacturers is we have some level 3. Pretty much everything's level 2, but there are some that are coming that have some pretty good level 3 stuff going on with them.
Okay.
Nice.
And that's where the car, I mean, this car's starting to drive itself at level 3 pretty much.
Yeah, it can make a few decisions. I mean, Mercedes and Tesla have level 4 capability with some of their features. Mercedes was the first manufacturer to get approval in Nevada outside of California earlier this year with level 4 technology. And so that is really the car can make decisions, change lanes, exits, based on like your navigation and how you have it programmed. It knows where it's going. Still requires you to be in the seat and be there in the event of an emergency or something like that, but it can effectively make decisions.
Okay.
Level 3 it'll drive itself, doesn't typically change lanes by itself, but it will, turn systems on and off as you turn signals on and do those kinds of things.
Okay. All right. Nice. So that's kind of like a good idea behind a lot of these systems that, like you said, most of them are just below that at a level 2. So we have like kind of lane assist or something where it kind of tilts the steering wheel maybe a little bit, or
you got it.
Like
warnings. Some of the think of the very first ones, right? You'd get the light on the dash, or the GM product was one of the first ones that I remember. It vibrates your butt, right? The seat would shake and tell you, hey, you've wandered out of your lane. It didn't correct it, but it would give you a warning to say you're not in the middle of the lane. That's a level 2.
Yeah.
I hated those. I was never a fan.
Yeah. Andy's reminding us to let him know, tell him happy birthday. So
Oh
make sure
yeah,
you
happy
guys tell-
birthday, Andy.
Happy birthday, Andy.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got to be more specific, Andy, if you want to turn that joke
text
around.
Text it in the chat too. Happy birthday, Andy, guys.
Yeah. Everybody wish Andy a happy birthday.
Right.
So I mean, one of the things I've heard is that a lot of the companies are keeping their capabilities down to level 2 because they don't want liability yet. Yeah. So as soon as they claim that their cars can drive themselves, now when things go wrong and we have an accident or an on purpose, then all of a sudden now some of the liability is on the car manufacturer and not the driver. So I mean they're gonna have to figure out a way around that, and I feel like that's probably the biggest hurdle.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something there, Stefan. I mean, the regulation that's coming that we're going to see with the automatic braking mandate is going to change some of that. It's going to force manufacturers to step into the liability space, and they won't have a choice because it's regulated. Today, I think we continue to see a lot of truly these manufacturers believe there's still this race to autonomy. And the reality is, and I say, you'll hear me say this regularly, the race is over. The technology already exists for level 5. The winner of the race to autonomy is our infrastructure, or actually the lack of. So we can't effectively put self-driving cars on the road because of the way our roads are today. At least in the U.S., you see more opportunities in Europe for success there. But even at that, until cross-pollination happens with some of the software and technology that's on these vehicles where they can start talking to each other, those higher advanced levels aren't going to happen either. Until a Toyota can talk to a Ford or Mercedes can talk to a Toyota when they're driving down the road, it's going to be really hard for that car to make independent decisions as it's driving. And so today, Honda has the capability of talking to another Honda. Rivian has the capability of talking to another Rivian, but they don't have the ability to talk to each other yet. So.
No, that is true. I've always said that we're gonna have self-driving cars at some point. It might be beyond our own lives, but the when it's gonna happen is when first nobody has the want for their own car because it's expensive to have your own car. So eventually we're gonna have a generation that's just gonna be like, I don't want to own a car. It's expensive and it's dirty. I don't want to own a car, and they're gonna want an app just to bring up a car like they do in Uber, but it's going to be a driverless car that shows up, and then every car on the road is going to be that way. So yeah, absolutely, the cars have to talk to each other, unless something comes out at a monopoly. I mean, it's just it's the only way.
There's a ton of research and development going on. I had a really cool opportunity to visit a kind of a technology center in Detroit a couple of months ago during the SICA conference, and they took us to a facility that's doing a lot of autonomous development. And the GPS system that was on these vehicles, obviously aftermarket, was within a 4 millimeter accuracy. So they could pin that car within 4 millimeters of its location. So
wow,
from a satellite, how many ever bajillion miles in the air it is, and it can actually.
That's pretty crazy.
Well, to give you context, when we're pulling frames on vehicles, we really only have to get it within 3 millimeters of correct. So we can leave frames 3 millimeters off, and that GPS is only 1 more millimeter accurate. That's pretty amazing. Andy's over here congratulating you for looking at your camera rather than the two of us who are off center. So
my side profile, I'm changing that soon, Andy. You can better believe that.
Yeah, I'm in the process of moving my whole streaming room into a different room as well. So
how you doing?
Get ready for a background change, Andy. It's coming.
Yeah. So you was talking about static shops and stuff like that. What is some of the basic area sizes that if somebody was looking to open up a shop or get their own thing, what kind of area do you think they could comfortably need to get most of these cars calibrated and such?
Nick, if you asked me 3 years ago when ADAS Solutions started, I'd tell you our Loveland location is 2,000 square feet. Not a lot of space, right? It's basically one stall. We just moved into a larger facility in Loveland because it wasn't no longer would it support the vehicles that we needed to do every day. And so we're up to about between 5,000 and 6,000 square feet of space. Each one of our static centers are today. So a Rivian, Stefan was talking about taking Rivian training. A Rivian requires 40 by 60 feet of clear space. So you need to have an open area with no obstructions. The floor needs to be moderately level. Rivian has a special tooling requirement that does account for some levelness in the floor and does give you some grace there. But theoretically, you need to have a pretty controlled environment. Good lighting, ability to adjust the lighting. You need to have clear stuff on the walls where there isn't a bunch of distractions. No metal in the area. We're talking about calibrating radars. That's all done through sound, right? It's a lot of bouncing sound and sonar around. Mm-hmm. If there's metal objects, you're trying to point that sound into what we call a trahedral, or we call it tone of silence. And if that sound catches off of another object that's close to it, and now that's what it thinks it's calibrating with. And so that's really the kind of the thing you got to think about. It's very clinical, very sterile.
Yeah.
When we launched our location here in Argyle in Texas, I did a video to kind of share what we do, because we're in the automotive space, but we're really a technology company, not really a car company per se. We just happen to work on cars.
Yeah, can I get my oil changed here?
Yeah, no, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you got it. And so those are all the things that when we go in and stand up a static calibration center today, it looks a lot different than it did 3 years ago. And it's really challenging to walk into a typical collision center, PDR shop, guys that just do the things that all of us do here that are on this call, and actually really find 2,000 square feet of space that you can feel comfortable that you can effectively teach the car what you're trying to teach it, right?
Yeah, it also sounds like we're trying to level up the concrete guys too. They have to be good at what they're doing.
Man alive,
right?
Yeah,
get that floor nice and level.
Now I got both sides trimmed this time. I paid the full amount.
This time.
Yeah, this time. It's normally only this side I get trimmed. I don't have to worry about the other side.
Oh man, this is your only public appearance, so
right.
Yeah, that's good.
Right. So that's some good info.
David's good. He feels like it's the doctor's office. So we can equate it maybe to the surgical room.
Yeah.
You know, the body shop's the doctor's office, and then you get to go in for surgery. Nice clean room.
Yep. That's it. It's really what we're talking about. I mean, if you look at our pictures of our facilities, they've got very neutral colored floors, very neutral colored walls. Nothing, no objects in the way. It's all just a big old open space. Now we do have alignment racks in our centers now today, because that has now evolved into the next requirement when you calibrate most systems. It all drives off of the thrust angle of the rear wheels. And so if the car isn't aligned properly, as the car goes is where the ADAS systems go. And so if you don't have the car driving straight, then you're not going to get a right calibration either.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the cool things that the training that I just went to, the trainer said, all right, I know how the instructions say to take all the weight out of the bed and out of the cab, to do this, which that's fine. But I would suggest you go and talk to the owner of this vehicle and say, are you driving around with that weight in there most of the time? And if they say yes, then you should perform that calibration with that weight in the truck, because you want their stuff acting like it should with the way they normally drive. So that was an interesting, and that wasn't in the training at all. It was just his little tidbit he added to it, and so that's a great little thing to remember.
Yep.
So it's
there is no common thread between manufacturers and what they say. It's like putting on quarter panels. It's not really different. Back in the day, right, you could do them all exactly the same. You never had to look at instructions. And now today, you darn well better have the instructions for every Toyota model, not just Toyota, but for every model, because it's going to be a little different, right?
And they'll change halfway through the year. Yeah, they'll update it or something.
Yeah.
I make a joke. I watched Rivian procedures change four times in one day. The same procedure changed four times. We were testing it to determine that what we had thought would work didn't actually work, and so we had to modify it kind of as we were going along. And it was, it really happens like that. So. Yeah, you're right, Andy.
Yeah.
We don't. We're not very good at
You're not
pictures.
far from wrong there, Andy. But yeah, luckily a lot of procedures do have pictures. So that's I rely on those to find the correct amounts of information that I need.
Right.
But
I
go
hate
ahead.
reading the instructions. I like to just see it. I work a lot better if I can do that.
We're visual people, so
sure.
for sure. I mean, we
That's
work with our hands.
Really tough part with calibration work, guys, because that's what the very first thing we teach our techs when we're training them on the technical side is it's a reading test every day.
Yeah.
You literally have to read the content, and it is hard for guys like us who learn with our hands and are visual to literally have to look at a scanner screen and read instructions step by step by step. It's so easy to miss a step, and it's so easy to jump over something, and then you shoot it and you get it doesn't work, right? Didn't calibrate. Now you got to go back and read the instructions again and figure out which step you missed. So.
It does seem like it can be a bit tedious, little steps here and there. I mean, it was easy, but I can imagine when you're doing back to back calibrations, it can be easy to be like, oh yeah, I saw the screen, like keep on going. But there's something on there that said something as simple as now turn the wheel a little bit, or something, and you didn't do that, and something's not going right. So anyway, it's that's very it's very interesting. I mean, so in my training, I was using the True Point system from John Bean. Is that something that you guys use in your centers?
We do. So we are Rivian certified in some of our locations as well. In fact, we just literally picked ours up for Argyle here so that we can be Rivian certified here in Texas. And predominantly, we use Autel as a company. Okay. That's the system that we have selected as our primary. But we have redundancy with TruePoint in several locations. We have redundancy with other OEM specific requirements, lots of OEM software access. So the technical part, like the hands-on mechanical tooling piece of it, the target frames and those things, those are a little bit more, I'll use the word generic because it's really what they are, right? They're right. Target placement holders and that kind of thing. But you have to follow the OE procedures in order to position that holder in the right location. And so if you're not, some instances Autel will adjust the dimensions based on the OE procedures, and you shoot it and it doesn't go. You got to go back to the procedures and find out where the number's off. Is there distance that they didn't calculate properly and verify that and check it. So that's true with all of them. You see, I follow a lot of the blogs and there's guys out there that are battling that right now with some of their older equipment. Frames and the data that's in them, they haven't updated and they're still trying to calibrate in the old ways. And we talk about how procedures change. The manufacturers made a modification procedure and they're still following it because they haven't updated their systems and they're still following the old rules. And so and then trying to figure out why it won't work. So.
Just like any other scan tool, they update so far and they go out of date and you have to get a new one. And
I mean,
and ADAS make sure you get your so fast. It's a lesson that is quick.
Yeah.
It's I did hear at my last shop every time the John Bean updated, it has that noise or whatever, is a ding ding or I forget what the noise it made, but it's they were updating that thing constantly. Hey Chris, come on! Chris just won a whole bunch of stuff at Andy Patrick's charity event he had. So congratulations, Chris, on the new tools.
Absolutely. Nice. Probably needed those tools too, huh?
What's up, Case? Good to see you.
How you doing?
All right. Just wanted to make sure we hit all these comments. That's all.
Yeah.
Andy. All right. So, as the average tech, so say we have to remove a blind spot monitor, and I'm including PDR techs in here too, Mr. Stephen Dyke, Andy Patrick,
Andy,
Brandon,
he's still in here.
As we all know, there are even some blind spot monitors like built into taillights and stuff. So, and even the PDR techs are taking taillights left and right. So, how do we find out if we need to recalibrate one of these sensors.
Yeah. So that's been the tough nut to crack over the course of the last 36 months is finding a tool or a reference guide or something that can help kind of pare all of this noise down that you're trying to sift through and all this reading that you have to do to find some answers quicker. So within the last 12 months, there's been a number of software developments that have come about that really start talking about how to identify calibration requirements based on the estimate. And so there's some really good scrubber tools out there that you can just upload your PDF of your estimate to, and they'll run an assessment on it and give you a report back to say these, specific calibrations are required. They'll ask you, talking about PDR, they'll ask you if it's a collision event versus a cosmetic event, because that kind of weeds out safety system tests and those types of things that you wouldn't need to do if it wasn't a collision event.
Yeah.
So 3 off the top of my head. ADAS Think is probably the oldest one, or the one that's been around the longest. They were purchased by Repairify a year or so ago. There's a company out there that the ADAS Solutions predominantly uses called OneSource. I equate Tommy and Robbie to like the Rogaine guy, right? Remember the Rogaine commercial, and the guy says, I'm just not the owner, I'm also a customer. They're the same. They're technicians.
Yeah.
Had a diagnostic company before they started OneSource, found that they had a need, and so they developed a product and took it to market a little over a year ago.
Nice.
And so that's a great tool. Rev is probably one of the up and coming companies. You would have seen them blasted all over SEMA. They were doing some really cool things there. Their program is a little broader, a little bigger. They have some workflows, and it's kind of a management system in the ADAS space and that kind of thing that offers you a little more capability if that's the path you want to go down. But suffice to say, all of them will take your estimate or ingest it if you give them permission if you're writing in CCC. They'll grab it straight out of Secure Share and send you a report right back in a matter of a few seconds. And so that's how we've gotten to the point of knowing that, okay, that taillight in that 2018 F-150 came out because we did some PDR on a bedside.
Yeah.
We got to put out and that's a big calibration. That isn't a little one. That's a big calibration. Big mats takes a lot of space and takes a lot of time to set up. And so,
Okay.
Yeah.
So. No, that's great, because that's what most people are lacking now, and getting into this new time and age where we need to pay attention to that stuff. So I think every shop owner, PDR, body shop should have one of these systems. Yeah. I mean, another option is to get something like All Data and sift through it yourself, but what you're offering is something that's going to take less time, because you can just submit your estimate and they send it back to you.
And the really cool part, when the report comes back, and not to, we use OneSource. They all have great features and functions. OneSource embeds the All Data procedure link right in the report. So it says I can do the blind spot, and I have the link that I can click on to get the instructions on how to do that as well. So that's pretty cool. All Data has a product that they've brought to market that is similar in a scrub feature as well. It's brand new.
Oh, okay.
I'm not familiar with it enough to tell you what its capability success is. So it's all growing. It's all new technology, and it's all reliant upon data to get better. So we've seen it. There's misses. Like I said, it doesn't always find the needle in the haystack. That you still have to apply a little common sense and ask yourself if you did something to that car that you believe should require a calibration, or did you? A lot of guys, honestly, man, we hear this often. It didn't have any codes. I scanned it, and there's no DTCs. There's no lights on the dash. I don't need to calibrate anything. Yeah. DTCs and scanning are not calibration. Two very different things.
Very different. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a short story on that. I mean, I used to have a Tacoma, and I decided to throw an aftermarket grill on it that said Toyota on it, one of the TRD Pro style ones. And I was excited for the part. So, I'm looking up the manufacturer's like videos, install videos, and I'm listening to it as I work. And then they get to this part where they're like, and if you have a front radar system, you got to put this block in right here. It's the little clear unit, goes over the radar. And then they say that you should get it calibrated, but honestly, I think that stuff's just like a money grabs. Don't worry about it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my God, these guys are gonna get sued. Putting that out and it's in the public, and like, no, that's not fake, guys. Calibration's a real thing.
Yeah. Calibration is a real thing. Speaking of calibrations being a real thing, what is the projected 5-year look for that stuff? I mean, is it mandatory right now, or they hadn't made it mandatory for all vehicles yet, have they?
No, that's good point, Nick. So there's a lot of features. So when you take ADAS broadly, they're all convenience features today. That's how they're defined. That's how the manufacturers define them. So all of those things we can literally push a button and shut off today. Right? In 29, the mandate goes into effect for every vehicle to have automatic braking on it. Now, if we really look at the volume of cars produced today, 85% of them already have that. But the next 15% gets picked up on the base model cars that are the highest volume of cars on the road, actually. And so when that happens and that mandate happens and the government inserts itself, now that definition changes from convenience to safety. And that changes the whole horizon of how ADAS is going to be viewed. A couple of things to think about, and we talked about levels earlier. You think about level 1 or level 2; those systems they're independent the way they speak to each other. So think about how your house is wired. You have a 110 circuit that runs to the outlets in your wall, and that's all that does. You can't get power to your ceiling light with the outlet in the wall, right? Not without doing some funky creative wiring.
Yeah.
Back to the circuit breaker, and you run another circuit to get the lights wired, right? Now, 5 years out, these systems are all going to talk to one another, and they're going to be very dependent upon one another to operate and function. They are already. So take any late model car today, and that radar that's in that Toyota Tacoma that you were talking about, Stefan, if you get your windshield replaced, there's a camera in your windshield. That camera in your windshield is dependent upon the communication from that radar in order to work properly. As we get more sophisticated and more advanced, those systems are going to talk to each other 100% of the time. So if one isn't working properly, then none of them are going to work properly. And so that's what we're going to be faced with 5 years from now, Nick, kind of thinking about that. And the sophistication factors are insane. To get to level 5, that camera has to be able to look down the road a whole lot further than it does today. Today, it's about 200 yards. Most manufacturers view about 200 yards in front of the car. To be able to make decisions and have enough time to do so, that's going to be a mile down the road.
Yeah,
right.
They're going to be kind of integrated like a TIPA module in a Chrysler or something now. They're just going to all be together.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. There's information out there. Rivian just came out with, and I talk a lot about Rivian because I got to see the behind the curtains there. They just did. They released Generation 2 right over the summer, and they reduced a tremendous number of modules. They went from 40 some odd modules down to like 19. And they cut out a bunch of wiring and reduced the weight of the vehicle. Well, none of the sophistication or capability of that vehicle changed. It can still do all the same things that a Gen 1 could do. They've just stacked that software inside of those modules now, so there's more dependency upon those modules to be able to talk to one another and truly communicate like your computer, right? When you get into Microsoft 365, remember back in the day, you could buy Excel and you could buy Outlook and you could buy the individual systems.
Yeah.
You get Office 3 or you get Microsoft 365 and it's all in there, and they all talk to one another. You can share, and I can share things with you and you can share things with me. And back in the day, you couldn't share with anybody.
It's a lot more user friendly now than what it used to be.
Right.
Yeah. So, with that being said, talking about integration of ADAS and all that, Steve asked, about getting more regulated from insurance pricing. Is that going to be? That's what's going to happen through that.
It's a reaction, right? We talk about it's new, and there was a bunch of folks who got out early and said, I'm going to go make $1 bajillion on calibration. And then they have a flat price. I charge $2,000 for every calibration, and I don't care what it is. If it takes me 2 minutes or 2 hours, it's $2,000. And insurance companies, as we all know, are always reactionary. They don't know how to take in data until they have too much of it and realize that, oh my gosh, they missed the mark. And then they react. And that's what we've seen earlier this year with some of the stuff that went on with Geico, and they made a public partnership announcement with Aztec, and they came up with pricing structure. State Farm just launched a pilot in Colorado and Michigan with some pricing structure. So it's definitely going to go down that path. And that's okay. I mean, honestly, I think we need to standardize certain aspects of this so that we can all kind of get to similar responsibilities and identifications. And I think we're going to continue to see that more and more. It's the days of $2,000 radar calibrations on Toyotas that take you 10 minutes. They're gone.
Sure.
Can't do that anymore.
Right.
Yeah. Taking like David said, he stopped doing side work because of calibration on cars.
Yeah.
It costs way too much to swap a bumper just to, to negate any kind of profit there. So,
man, guys, I'll give you just a real lame example of where we're missing this collision industry. The body industry is the best at identifying calibration, and we kind of suck. We only really truly identify about 40% of the cars in a shop that need to be calibrated today. And that's the best, right? Now go to a tire shop and tell them you want 4 new tires on your car. If you go read the OE procedures, you're going to find that 14 auto manufacturers say when you replace tires on my vehicle, it needs to have a 4-wheel alignment. When you perform 4-wheel alignment, it needs to have a full ADAS systems calibration.
Oh, wow.
No tire shops telling you that. How do you tell a consumer that walks in for, you're already going to tell them you got to spend $1,500 on tires. Now you got to do a $200 wheel alignment. Oh, and by the way, that's going to be a $1,500 ADAS calibration as well.
Yeah, $5,000 set of tires by the time you're done.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Those are the things we all have to figure out, right? Those will be the evolutions that we go through, and that's some of the fun stuff to get to imagine and try to solve for. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Andy asked, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be but he asked, do vehicles need to be recalibrated after being lowered? I would assume so.
Yeah. So anytime you change ride height up or down, there's a calibration requirement. Now, most manufacturers will put limitations where their systems are capable of still coming into tolerance. And typically it's 2.5 inches is kind of where you can go up or you can go down. Not all of them. Some of them don't have that much tolerance. And so you change any of it, you change profile of your tires. A lot of calibrations won't perform. You can't get them through.
Okay.
Yep. Well, that's what I've seen. They talk about oversized tires, and it's like, well, we can't calibrate. Get the customer to sign something that says, sorry.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
It's just geometry, right?
Yeah.
You think about where the position of that sensor is, and they've changed it, and you've told that sensor to look 200 feet in front of it. That ain't changes, right? It's just a matter of geometry. That's all it is.
Okay. Yeah, Andy, you better call that calibration guy of yours. Get your lowered vehicle recalibrated. Probably that brandy new F-150 you had outside when I was there. But I feel like eventually you could get into the right to repair argument. Yeah, sure. I mean, there are solutions for you to be able to calibrate at home. It's just, it would be an investment at this point. I mean, we were talking about how much room is required to do these calibrations. I mean, it's not that before. I mean, we all seen the guys in the parking lot that are doing this. Either they have the box that goes on the windshield or something small, or they do something else in not the right amount of area. So there are ways to get it done, and some vehicles are more stringent on what they need to get the calibrations done than others. So I mean, you could do just side work on, I don't know, I'm just throwing a name out there, on just Hondas, if you find that you're capable of calibrating the Hondas. But then we got to look into repair guidelines as well because of ADAS solutions. I mean, so there are bumpers on Teslas, Rivians, and lots of other vehicles where we're not even allowed to put a second coat of paint.
That's right.
On these bumpers because now the mill thickness is too thick for the radars to work correctly. So I mean,
dropping a bumper corner to blend a fender. You've now, when you reassemble that car, that bumper you can't guarantee that it's in the right space it was before. Have you moved,
Right.
did you move it 2 or 3 millimeters, and is the thickness of that bumper now different than where it was looking at before, even if you didn't paint it, right?
Yeah.
So it requires a calibration. And so you're spot on, Stefan. There's Mercedes has a number of colors out there that have a metal flake issue. And so they've had to come up with a different aftermarket paint in order for the calibrations to perform, because the metal stands up on edge instead of lays down flat when that was thrown off the radar.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how sensitive that these things are, actually. And I mean, at first glance, I guess people can say, "Oh, well, it's not that important. It's not that big a deal." But a lot of these manufacturers are going through great lengths to get these things set up. I mean, like you said, the mill thickness, you can't even repair a bumper in some of these spots, much less put too much paint on them nowadays.
Right.
And that goes back to we don't know if an aftermarket bumper is the same mill thickness as far as that goes. So now you're pretty much locked into an OEM bumper at that point.
Yep.
Right.
So,
Which is good.
yeah, I mean, it's good, but
It's good.
You're pretty much
cost to repair, right? I mean, all the factors we can
Right.
put sides of the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you get a customer coming in just to fix a scratch on a bumper, and you tell them, "Well, we need to change your bumper." What? The guy down the road said he could fix it. It's like, but
we're all buying insurance, and so when I don't know about you guys, but I live in Texas, and car insurance in Texas is holy henna, man. They have decided that this is a place to capitalize, and our premium's gone up 5 times what I paid 5 years ago when I moved here, and so it's insane. And so cost of repair is a factor for that.
100%.
Absolutely, it is. And I mean, just things like that, little scratches, all these details, they come into the factor in a lot of this stuff, which is going to drive insurance and things up, just like the price of cars and everything else. So really the days of, doing some minor repair maybe on the side, or, starting your small business very early on, it's getting tougher and tougher to do.
Yeah.
And
I guess that's how come there aren't heart surgeons out on the corner.
Right. I mean, it's really getting down to that point. If you think about it, the next 10 years it'd be super difficult to repair a vehicle outside of a facility like that requires all this stuff.
So Jason in the chat, remind me what you call us. You call us structural automotive re-engineers, the auto body technicians of today, I think he said. And it's very true, because it's the amount of stuff that we need to know, information we need to hold on just to get these cars repaired correctly. I mean, it's something else. And David says PDR is looking better and better. I have to agree. But even with PDR, there's something that actually, one of our tasks that Nick and I are taking on together is to try and bring these certification programs to the PDR world. So I was talking to someone from Collision Advice about starting a Rivian certification program for PDR technicians, because these guys are poking around in there with sharp tools. Yep, I thought he was frozen.
He was frozen.
So I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. But so these guys, the PDR techs, they want to know exactly what they're allowed to do, when they're allowed to do it. They want to know how to keep safe while we're working on these vehicles, if they need to power down a system to move a charging port
and such. Yeah,
right. The high voltage. That's important. And not only that, there's something to be said about, if I go to BMWUSA.com, certified collision center, there's a list on right there on the BMW website. And for there to be a certified PDR center or PDR technician section where I can have my business on there, because I've put in money and time into learning on how to do it. I think that's really important. And the guy from Collision Advice was like, "Wow, that's actually a really, really great idea."
That is a good idea, because the PDR guys, the paintless dent repair, we're not just fixing door dings and stuff anymore. We're fixing minor collision on a lot of these instances,
It's
and all these electric cars and stuff nowadays. I mean, you don't want to be out there on a cold day and take a sharp tip and stick it into a electrical wire that'll heat you up in ways you're not really
yeah,
interested in.
it'll be
So,
the end of you.
yeah. So there
So
should be some OEM.
there should be to keep people safe and just to make sure that these guys that are out there fixing. I mean, it's paintless collision repair now. It's
Yeah.
PCR, and they want to know that they're doing right by the vehicle, right by the customer. Excuse me, and to have that certification on their on their wall. It's
And it's one thing, like you said, it's if you don't know, how can you know what to do if you don't know? So, got to get that stuff set up in place too, so we can get this properly done.
so actually that's my question for you, Frank. Having been an insider at Rivian, I know you don't speak for them, but I was talking to the collision advice guy. We were just talking about it when you phased out a little bit there, but
What's up, Chris?
it would be awesome for there to be a certification program for PDR technicians, for OE certification. I mean, especially for these high voltage vehicles, so that these guys aren't killing themselves with doing this stuff. And I mean, the rules are much simpler for them. I mean, don't drill holes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But how to power down a high voltage system on a vehicle, because hey, I got to move this charging port. It's in my way.
Nick made a huge point in it. I mean, it's the difference between breathing or not breathing, and that's understanding where the orange wires even run in these cars, right? I mean, if you inadvertently poke a low voltage wire, nobody's going to die. You get a short, and now you got a wire that you have to fix. But if you poke an orange wire, there's a funeral that's involved here, in a dustpan and
at least one
room is what I always say. And so that's 100% aligned with you guys. And I think some of the OEs are starting to understand that a little bit. I think Rivian is obviously as a new car company, they had no legacy to have to contend with, and no, they're not a franchise model, so they don't have dealers. That it's a direct sale, and so that whole dynamic of the way that those cars are distributed and supported is way different than what we're used to when we talk about going to the Ford dealer or whatever the case may be. All of that training is dependent upon those guys to take initiative to learn. When it's a direct sale company like a Rivian or a Tesla, they require you, right? If you want to be part of their program, you have to go do the training, and that's just otherwise you can't get the parts, or you can't get access to the information and those types of things. So.
That's a whole other part that I even was forgetting about, because I actually got a call from another PDR technician who was embarrassed that he had to have his customer drive to Rivian to go and buy a weather seal.
Yeah.
It was just a piece of plastic with some dum-dum on it. I mean, it's a weather seal. You're telling me that he can't go and buy that for his customer? No, his customer has to do it. So if he was on an approved, certified PDR shop list, he went through the training and did whatever investment he had to do, now he can buy the parts and provide the service. Yeah. I think it's necessary. It's going to be necessary with the damage that these guys are fixing now.
Absolutely, it's necessary, and this is not always the case that the high voltage runs directly through the center of the vehicle. So,
no, it can be anywhere.
It could get to the point actually where PDR tools have to kind of be insulated before you can work on a lot of these.
Or you're going to have to glove up, right? I mean, you're going to have to put
right.
the high voltage gloves on the end of the tool where you're holding onto it. And now, how does that affect a PDR technician's ability to feel and know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like putting on a
probably
set of gloves.
It'll be doable, but nobody's going to like that. I can tell you that much, especially working out in the sun, having to wear the rubber and the leather. Yep. It's going to make a sweaty situation even more.
Right.
So,
But,
no,
I mean, that's what it looks like it's coming to, and I support the idea of having OEM procedures and those kind of things geared towards a PDR guy, so they can get their own certifications and get set up to at least have where they can buy these minor parts and stuff and have familiarity with the vehicles.
Yeah, they're not looking to buy quarter panels,
Yeah.
and
We're not
frame
putting
rails
frame
and
rails,
stuff.
Yeah, I'm not
You can
doing
order
all
up a
that.
skateboard, but the simple stuff, and clips and moldings and weather
So
seals,
Eh,
interesting. The Rivian parts involvement, that those parts will become available to every repairer at some point. It's a systems challenge, just speaking it because I know
Sure.
today it's
Yeah.
a bit of a systems challenge for an outsider to be able to access those parts. Like Tesla today, I may not be Tesla approved, but I can go order a Tesla windshield because we do glass, and so I can do that, and I can get some of the cosmetic type of parts and clips and things like that through Tesla. Those days will come for Rivian, but it doesn't take away the importance of making sure that you understand the part that you're ordering and what you have to do to perform the repair, right?
Correct. And just stay safe. I mean, that's the main thing. It's that I'm already hearing about technicians that are no longer with us because of EVs and,
Yeah.
and improper use, and they just don't know, and you could blame them, but there's no real way for them to learn. So
Yeah.
It's
you
tough.
can't really blame them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the OEs are faced with on the service side of things versus the engineering side of things. It's two very distinct houses when you get behind the curtain of a manufacturer. You have the folks who do service and do what we do versus the engineers who are designing it and building it who don't think about what we do and what the downstream effect of how they design something or make it. I mean, we all have said it. Why in the world did the engineer design it this way, right? This is dumb. Well, they built it that way because it was easy to assemble. They don't think
Right.
about taking
Right.
things apart at all. It's only about how they're putting it together.
Put
That's all I
together.
care about, getting it out the door.
Same with these plastic clips that you got to save and all that. Like we were talking about, I think before you jumped on, we were mentioning stuff about how you what was we talking about the crap? I went blank. Talking
I'm
about
sorry.
Oh well. Anyways, I had it on my mind and I went
It
blank.
happens to me all the time.
I read Andrew's comment down here. And I completely forgot. But we was talking about crap, man. Oh well. Anyways, it'll come back
Got the
to
tail
me.
end about something like a quarter panel replacement, and I don't know if it was one-time use fasteners or anything like that where you were going, Nick, with your thought. Just trying to throw words out there.
Yeah. We were talking about how assembling stuff and having to take it back apart.
Oh, the question I got from the follower about the quarter panel coming welded on to the inner wheelhouse. Is that what you were talking about?
No.
Okay.
No. But we talked about it right after that, and yeah, it was back down to like all these one-time use things and all that about putting these cars together. But that's there's Bobby Z in the house. Yeah, I
Bobby
went totally
Z.
blank where I was going with it, but
That happens to me all the time. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
So electric cars are going to end up like the aviation field, have to be certified to work on these type of vehicles. Well, even currently, I mean, if your shop is certified, you can work on them. So as long as your shop has gone through the requirements, which only may require like 2 of the technicians to go to training, everyone in the shop can work on them. But this is, like we were saying, it's mostly for structural stuff. I mean, the non-structural. I mean, that was the main thing. When Tesla was coming out and they were saying nobody can buy any parts. It's like, well, all the shops that weren't certified were still fixing them. They just weren't buying parts, which meant that stuff was hacked together bad. And I saw a lot of them come into my shop. So I don't know if that motivated them or if, like Frank said, it's a system issue and they weren't ready for it yet, and then they became ready. But all of a sudden, they were offering non-structural parts to everybody, which was a great idea because now then their cars weren't as hacked together as much. So it's going to be I like hearing that Rivian's going to be doing the same thing because I hate to see a $96,000 vehicle get hacked together by somebody
because you can't order a small part.
Something stupid.
When new parts come out, new vehicles come out, new stuff comes out, and you can't get a part or something like that. I mean, you're just asking for trouble on these. I mean, I know they probably thought this was a good idea. You only want certain manufacturer approved people or just the Tesla only shops working on their cars. But at the end of the day, it's a vehicle and stuff breaks and people are going to need to fix it.
No.
Yep.
I mean, the statistics say that the average consumer only goes to the body shop once every 10 years. If we rewind 10 years and think about what a car was 10 years ago, and who knows, they went 10 years ago, their car could have been 5 years old at that point. So that now we're talking theoretically 15 years ago in vehicle history.
Yeah.
15-year-old car today, holy cow, right? I mean, that's like none of us want to drive that car. So.
Right.
I never blame anybody for coming into the body shop not knowing what's going on, how it's going to work. And it's like, oh, I get that. I understand. You've never done this before, and you probably never will again. You know?
And there's no standard operating procedure for a shop or techs or anything like this. So when you walk into a shop, you're walking into what their environment is, or the one down the street could be totally different. And it's confusing. We try to help gear people towards the right steps and directions for when they do have an accident or something. But right now, it's just it's all over the place, and I don't blame people for not knowing what to do. And especially the information out about ADAS now, like he said on the grill, it's a money grab, but I mean it's really not. It's affecting the components and drivability of your car.
Right.
And with electric power steering and stuff like that, I mean, you've had low voltage batteries before, or that stuff go low, it jerks your steering wheel and all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's not really something that you're just like, we just, take a Sharpie and just draw over the check engine light.
Yeah,
so
right.
You have to look at it.
It's like that LED out.
Yeah.
I mean, these are safety systems. They really are. I mean, so if your stuff's not calibrated exactly right, and we're talking about something that can grab your wheel and turn it, I want whatever system does that to be tip-top shape, no matter what. Yep. There's no getting around that. So it's.
And today's consumers, we do a lot of stats reading and verifying just to try to stay in front of the customers that we work with. And believe it or not, I don't know, Stefan, you said you just recently bought a new to you car. I don't know if you bought it at a dealership or what your experience was there. I bought an F-150, a new F-150 at the end of last year. And I knew what I wanted when I went in because I'm a car guy, right? So I kind of did my research and I knew what I was looking to get. And I wanted to have the Blue Cruise feature on the Ford. And the salesman was like, I got 5 other ones that I can sell you for a better deal than I can sell you the one that I've got with Blue Cruise on it, because I only got one and it doesn't do anything extra. It really doesn't. There's no really real value in the Blue Cruise. You can drive down the road with your hands off the wheel. The guy selling the car had no idea what that technology was capable of. As a consumer, 1 in 5 consumers now have done this same research and they go to purchase a new car with full intention of buying it with these ADAS features on it to improve their driving experience. I drove my F-150 from Texas to northeastern Colorado, and it drove itself 85% of the way. I didn't put my hands on the wheel.
Wow.
And everybody's like, I like to drive. I like to drive too, but you know what? I thoroughly enjoyed that experience. I didn't have tight shoulders when I got where I was going. I still drove. I still felt like, I still had to be there. I still had to keep my eyes on the road, and the experience was still the same. But I wasn't white knuckling anything. I wasn't hanging on to the steering wheel and driving the car. And so there's features that are going to come about that drivers are going to just really fall in love with very quickly. And it's going to force us as repairers to better understand. And Chris made a comment about figuring it out, right? And what the difference in parts are and having to do the homework. And he nailed it on the head. That's exactly what it's about. If you're going to be leading in your space as a professional, it's up to you to get yourself educated and figure out what you got to do to do the repairs properly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And ADAS is one of these things that we got to make sure that we get done properly. And, like you said, there's a lot where we're not catching in the shop. There's only a small amount that we got to do. So
we're so visual. We talked about it early, right? We repairers in collision see a dent, and we in our brain start going through the process of what it takes to fix that dent. Yeah. You don't see ADAS. There isn't anything visual, and so it becomes very difficult to compute it in our brains, right? It isn't how we're wired, and so you have to change your thinking a little bit and start thinking more like a mechanic. And a mechanic hooks a scan device up to a car before he ever thinks about fixing anything so that he can get a report or some data back to tell him what's wrong with the car.
Yeah.
That's how we have to kind of think about ADAS.
Well, that's one thing
right.
too. Like being a technician myself, I used to do pre and post scans on vehicles, so you could catch when like seatbelt tensioners or things like that would be blown, and that you wouldn't even notice it because you're just looking at the outside of the car. It's like it's a light hit. We don't know anything about it. We scan in the car. Oh, dang, let me check these tensioners. And okay, I didn't even realize that. But now they took that away from the tech, and then they want the service writers or a manager or somebody to do it. And now
sometimes
you don't get that information on a car now being a tech. So, you're losing out on that. And like you said, visual. So now we're looking at strictly what we can see. We have some maybe a sensor in the bumper, park sensors, those, and we got the radars on the sides and the fronts, but really not thinking about mirrors with cameras and windshields too much, because really we're not, that might not be where we're even working. Might just have to take the mirror on and off, and that's it, or
Subaru's position statement on calibration is anything over 3 miles an hour. That's a written position, requires an eyesight calibration. You tell me how you determine 3 miles an hour. We walk faster than 3 miles an hour. So shopping cart rolling into the car probably exceeded 3 miles an hour. It's not even
right? Oh my goodness.
Right. Take a literal, that's kind of a crazy way to think about it, right?
Yeah.
It really is. And that goes down to, again, like PDR guys, you could lean on the edge of a bumper with your knee and push it.
Faster than 3 miles an hour.
You really can.
I hit that hitch, the ball hitch with my shin at faster than 3 miles an hour plenty of times. I can tell you that much. No, I mean this is all very important stuff, and it can be looked at kind of like a hassle, especially for us that just want to, fix the car, get it out and get it done, it's got to be calibrated. Oh, you got to do a measuring and check to make sure the mount's in the right place and then aim the sensor. It's like, I didn't have to do this stuff before. Like, what the hell? I mean, one, we're getting paid for it in general. I mean, if I'm doing it, I am. But it's, I feel good that the systems are out there and the technology's out there. I mean, it's, I can say this because they don't watch. She doesn't watch. My mother, she's still driving. She's not that old. She's a good driver. But we all get older and we all lose our functions eventually.
So
and
she's
it makes
not
me
that good a driver anymore is what he's saying.
She's a great driver, even though I'm always the one who drives in general. But I'm glad that her car has the eyesight. It's a Subaru, and it has auto braking. It has things like that. It just makes me feel better about her on the road. For down the road, because I've seen my grandparents, lose their functions of driving over time. That gets scary.
If you're driving behind somebody else's grandparents, then you're probably losing your mind.
Yeah. So we all know that they're out there, and to know that they have the technology now to keep everybody, not just them, but everybody else on the road a little bit safer too,
I'm a little older than you guys, and so I'm on both sides of that. So we have parents that are aging, and so we think about those features for our parents to keep them on the road maybe a little longer. But we also have a 16-year-old son who just literally got his official driver's license in the mail today. And how much more we feel comfortable with the fact that he's got a car with a few of those features on it too to help him be a better driver as he's learning and figuring it all out. Because God help me, I had a 66 Mustang when I was 16, and I put that thing through places.
Right.
I think most of us car guys can have some personal stories where we're like, yeah, thank God for this new stuff. Crumple zones. I mean, I always had crumple zones. I drove some older cars growing up, so there were some close calls.
Yeah.
Traction control, that was a godsend, man.
yeah, I didn't have that. No ABS. Well,
The older
only when it
cruise
wasn't
control,
working.
the older cruise control is terrible.
Yeah.
If you drove a car with new cruise controls with all the range detection and stuff, and you get back in an old one, it is horrible.
You forget, right? You're trucking down the road and you're coming up on the tail end of a car and you're like, oh shit, I got to put on the brakes.
Yeah,
God,
right.
we got to stop this
Right.
thing.
It's going to go that speed regardless of the RPM. It's crazy. It's fun. It's came a long way and stuff.
Yes.
So I don't think any of these features. Daniel made a comment, says maybe we shouldn't be making cars nearly impossible to repair. I
Hard to disagree. Right?
that's the way this stuff is going. We're not going to lose these features in the next 5 years. They're going to be double what they are now. So, with that being said, I mean, are we going to just keep up with like the subletting shops calibrating stuff, or do you think it'll eventually get to technicians in every bay doing this type of stuff eventually, or how do you see that?
Probably a little bit of $1 million question, maybe a little bit of crystal ball looking, but honestly, guys, here's what I'll tell you. 2 years ago, the big push was dynamic calibration, right? We're just going to drive every car. We'll get it calibrated that way. Manufacturers were full steam ahead on dynamic. And then winter happens or LA happens, and you can't effectively perform a calibration in January in Minneapolis when there's 17 feet of snow on the ground. Or in LA during 4 o'clock rush hour or 24-hour rush hour, you can never get up to speed that the manufacturer says you have to drive that car. And that's with current technology. We talked about the advancement of those technologies and being able that camera to read a mile down the road. Effectively think about being able to view on a road 1 mile in front of you at any given time and being able to rely upon a calibration to happen in that environment. It's just not there. So Nick, I think it's going to evolve into collision centers and auto repairs are going to have to navigate how to address these needs within their businesses. We talk about cost per square foot in a traditional automotive center versus somebody who does a calibration business like we do. That cost is very different. And so there's opportunities for business owners to make business decisions and say, maybe it makes sense for me to start my own calibration company where I sublet to myself and I can go rent space that meets the standard in the environment that's required. Or I don't have a big enough market in where I'm at for that to make sense. So I'm going to partner with somebody who's doing that because they service an auto center and they service a dealership and all the different things, right? I think all of those, they're all on the table today, but I think it's still going to come down to independent preference and what that business owner really chooses. A lot of guys don't ever want to let a car out of their roof, right? They want the liability and they want to that's the only way they feel like they can ensure that it was repaired properly is if I do it. And so I can respect that and appreciate that. And so I think that the part that I kind of ride the fence on that line of thinking is really around the days of being able to fix every car ourselves and every element of that repair from start to finish. They're almost gone. We're to the point now where we have to get more specialized as technicians, where you have a structural tech and you have a cosmetic tech, you have a welding tech, you have a frame tech, you have an ADAS tech. And that ADAS tech may or may not live within your facility because of the environment that's required to perform that work. It may always mean that you got to send it to the operating room, right? Because that's just the function that's required. And so I think it's probably a little early to tell, but I think it's going to evolve. I think more locations will do their own. I think we'll have more locations doing their own wrong for a longer period of time. That's the part that scares me as somebody who's just part of the driving public as well. Because the idea of trying to keep that, it's good margin. There's a lot of money to be made in calibration. And so I think that the idea is try to keep that in my house, right?
There's a lot of growing pains though that I see in the future with a lot of this stuff. And I think we're probably just now seeing the beginnings of what it's going to turn into. I don't think we've made it anywhere near to where it's going to like phase out, you know?
Yeah, no, for
I
sure.
think this stuff is just now starting pretty.
Yeah. David makes a good comment in chat too about the cost of tooling. And you're spot on, David, in the obsolescence of that tooling. You think about buying a resistance welder and you know that you're going to get at least 10 years out of that tool. If you take good care of it and you maintain it, it's going to operate for you for 10 years. we've already turned over calibration equipment. We're a 3-year-old company. We've turned it over twice now.
Oh,
So you have to be prepared that there's an obsolescence factor with this today too, for sure.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that. When's the right time to start buying this stuff for the long term, and you want to make sure that you get your investment back. I'd hate to have to invest in all this to throw it away because there's something that's already surpassed it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have to watch and see what happens with time. I mean, I've now worked in 2 shops that have had just the 2-point system. So, I mean, it seems to be a pretty good one. But no, there's, like Nick said, there's some growing pains with this. I agree with you. I think each business really should be doing it their own, or like the one I'm working at is setting up its own calibration shop right now. How he's doing it, how he's structuring it, I have no idea. But I assume he's going to take work in from other shops as well, and then it's just more income.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I mean, we see frequency is reducing because of these systems. We're having much fewer accidents. Low speed accidents have almost gone away in some regard, and so these things are going to be what replaces that revenue piece in the collision shop. So all of those things are things we think about, right? I mean, gosh, the new braking requirement, the mandate is that it'll stop every rear end accident up to 92 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, automatic braking is going to be intelligent enough to stop your car if you're going 92 miles an hour and keep you from hitting what's in front of you.
As somebody that's been hitting in the back pretty damn hard, I would love to see that.
Right? Yeah. Yep.
So it's
hey, think about the consumer, right? Every day, that's what I always. I'm getting old enough now that it's always about leaving the industry better than I found it.
yes.
And the consumer is the most important aspect in my mind, and if we can do something, make a car that's better for the consumer, because we're not going to stop driving. Now,
No.
we're going to stop riding in cars. Stefan, you made a great point. I think that certain generations, and I mean, the little gal that works in the office next to our store, she Ubers to work every morning. She doesn't drive, and she's a 20-something.
Right.
Her decision, her choice. She doesn't want to drive, and so we'll see that. But she's still relying upon the vehicle to get her to work.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll get there eventually. I think a few generations have to go.
Yeah. Yeah, a few generations have to go. I mean, a lot of these younger kids are even talking about not wanting any of these old hot rods that people are storing up in barns and keeping pristine. They want to get rid of that crap. They don't even want vehicles to service. So,
Nope.
That will be coming. I mean, but still, you'll still be working on some of these cars. I mean, we'll just have to deal with them how we deal with them at that point.
All these PDR guys stealing the minor collision gravy.
Yeah, right.
Leaving us with all the train wrecks in the body shops. Thanks a lot, Daniel. That's all right. I'll take it, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. I mean, I learned a lot here tonight on ADAS and everything. I hope other people have as well. But I really appreciate you coming on with your background and teach us more about it. And this is important. This is important. ADAS is important. The calibrations are important. It's all safety stuff, and it's the way it's going. So
no doubt about it. Just as well figure it out now, because you're going to have to one way or the other. And if you're choosing to ignore it, you're number one, you're leaving money on the table. Number two, you're putting your neck way out on a line that shouldn't be out there.
Yeah,
right. I like what you said earlier. If you're going to plan to do this, plan for what at least 5 years ahead looks like. So if you're thinking about incorporating this into your shop, or trying to make it a business decision, I mean, look into at least 5 years ahead to see what you need to do, and I think you'll be pretty set. To be as wise as a move you can make in the business world at that point. So
absolutely
happy to help too. Any of your followers, anybody has questions, more than willing to share any experience I've got. And if you're looking at standing up a calibration center, we're happy to coach and help along the way. That's, like I said, it's always about fixing the car right and leaving it better than I found it. So
right. Absolutely.
Great.
Awesome. You guys go and follow Frank and give him a like. And
ADAS Solutions USA.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to throw you in the back room. Don't go anywhere just yet. We're going to wrap up the show, and then we'll say our goodbyes.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All
Appreciate everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, good one.
All right.
Well, that's some pretty cool stuff there with ADOS. That
Thanks for coming in, Joel, David, Alex, Andrew, Chris, Janelle, Daniel, everybody.
What is the best option? Oxidation. Oh, ask Janelle that. She probably, I don't know.
Janelle, go text Chris. No idea there, Chris. Sorry.
Yeah,
you wipe some clear on it.
Yeah, just put some stuff on it.
Wipe on clear.
It'll go away eventually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, restore FX.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Why are we throwing people in the back? Because, that's what we do.
Yeah.
It's just messing with us tonight.
Yeah,
Steve and Andy were going off in the comments.
Said repaint. Yeah, go repaint. It needed a repaint anyways.
All right. Train says it's time to go.
That freaking train. Yep. See you guys. Peace out.
Bye, everybody.